Alright, so today we will be teaching you how to use the manual mode in your cameras. No?
Yes,
Or in your
of course.
phone. In your phones, it's the Pro mode.
Pro mode, yes.
Yeah,
of
Pro mode. It's
course.
the same thing. Whether you're using a DSLR, whether you're using a mirrorless, we don't have a mirrorless. Baka naman. Yeah, whether you're using a phone, you can set it in Pro mode. Almost all smartphones right now has its own Pro mode, right? It's also
Or you can also use different apps for Pro mode.
yeah, it's also the equivalent of using the camera in manual mode, okay? So if you're starting photography, you've probably heard about the exposure triangle. Yeah. So the exposure triangle consists of what? Aperture
ISO?
and shutter speed. Okay, so today we'll be talking about those. Kuya Mon, you've done an episode about this already.
But that's in Tagalog.
Yes, that's in Filipino. So we've been having requests na do it in English. A bunch of Indonesian viewers, shout out to
Photographers is going international.
yes, international assholes.
Photographers, 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 photographers.
Alright, what's up everyone? And we're here again at another tutorial from Photographers. Alright, so we're here at Big Roy's.
Big Roy's,
Ayan.
yes.
What the hell are you guys doing there? We'll be shooting our vlog here. We just ate lunch. And then the owner, since he's a big fan of us, Hanif! Christian is such a good friend. He told us that we can shoot our vlog in his restaurant. Alright, so what do you think about that, no? That's cool, right?
Yeah.
Huwag na natin patagalin. Let's go inside. So first up in the exposure triangle is our shutter speed. But before we go to the description of the shutter speed, let's talk about the shutter first. So what is the shutter? The shutter is the shutting on and off. So anyway, the shutter is this device in our camera. Sometimes it's digital. Like in our phones, it has no physical shutter. The shutter is a device which allows light to pass through to our camera sensors. Okay, so for our DSLRs, it's the shutter curtain, right?
Shutter curtain or shutter assembly, whatever you want.
Yeah. For our cell phones, it's technically a digital shutter.
Digital shutter.
So it's fake. The shutter speed is the speed at which our camera closes.
Opens and closes.
Closes lang nandito. That means the longer you open the shutter, the more light comes in, okay, to our sensor. So basically in your cameras, this is the shutter speed. Okay, for this one, I'd like to introduce you to Chloe. Yeah, she's actually a very good photographer. She's one of our best wedding photographers. Ayan. Si Jason, ayan yun na yun, di magaling yun. But for now, she'll be our model. She has no choice. See? No choice. So I'll be shooting Chloe, and I'll be showing to you guys what happens when I shoot at a fast shutter speed and at lower shutter speed. Okay? Okay, so let me demonstrate first. So right now, we'll be shooting Chloe at 200th of a second. So it's just a simple portrait. Okay lang, Chloe. Portrait lang muna. Yeah. And there, so as you can see, at 200th of a second, we're getting correct exposures. Okay, watch as I make it faster. We're gonna go at 800th of a second. And there you notice the photo side by side. You see the difference in the exposure or the light or the brightness of the photo. So the usual question here is, Kuya Mon, why not just use slow shutter speed to get more light in? The thing is, at 200th of a second, if our subject is gonna be moving fast, so we'll be asking Chloe to move her hand like this. Okay, then, so let me show it to you. Sige. Ayan. Ready? In 3, 2, 1. One more. 3, 2, 1. You would notice the motion blur at our subject's hand because it's moving. So imagine shooting sports fast-moving objects, fast-moving subjects, and you're gonna be using slow shutter speed, you won't be able to pause that subject on that certain moment that you want the shot done. Okay? So, the thing is, there are settings here that's not allowable for handheld already. So, let me show it to you. Okay, so I'll be allowing more light in. So, this is borderline overexposed because I'm not moving our aperture, I'm not moving our ISO, I'm just adjusting our shutter speed. So, now we are at 50th of a second. So, watch your hand. Ready in 3, 2, 1. Ayan. Yan, see? It has more light in, but more blur on the part of our body that's moving. Now, I'll put it in a setting. We'll be using our shutter speed that's impossible for handheld, okay? So basically, this 1/5. Okay, this is 1/5. Okay, so I'll also be adjusting our ISO, and we'll get to ISO later, but I have to adjust the ISO because it will be too bright. Okay, take a look at this. Okay, ready? Sige. Yan. As you can see in the photo, everything is blurred right now because I'm only doing this handheld. There are certain shutter speed that it's already impossible to shoot handheld. Well, she can probably do it. She's got gimbal arms, I think. But you see, that's the effect of the shutter speed. The slower your shutter speed is, the more light that gets into your sensor. But, my big but. But then, at some point, you'll be introducing motion blur in your shots. And sometimes, again, it's even impossible to handheld this already, to do a handheld photo. So, Kuya Mon, why not use a tripod? Remember, our subject is a person that will also be moving. Even in micro movements at longer shutter speed, it won't be that sharp. Okay, so let me show you. I'm going back up to a shutter speed of 800th of a second. So this is really fast. So, watch this. Sige, ready? In 3, 2, 1. So as you can see in this photo, Chloe's hand is frozen. It's very sharp. There's no motion blur whatsoever in our photo. Okay, but sometimes even at 800th of a second, if the subject is too fast, there will still be motion blur in your shots. That's how I pick my shutter speed. Right, up next in our exposure triangle is the aperture. Okay, what is the aperture? So the aperture is basically this thing right here. So this is the aperture. There, can you see it? I'm not sure if you can see it, but that is the aperture. So the aperture is the diaphragm at which the lens lets the light pass through. Okay? So this is that hole. In our cameras and even in your mobile phones, you can see it as F something. So it's the numerical value with the F. Okay, so that's an F stop. What is the meaning of F? Fatographers.
Eh, pakailan mo ba?
Wala tayong faki doon. Basta F, pinangalanan. That is the F stop. Okay, so in that value, the larger the number, the smaller the opening. I don't know why they did it that way. It's supposed to measure something that we don't know, but anyway, we're not going to talk about that. So this is an f1.8 lens. So f1.8 meaning
50 millimeter.
yeah, meaning it opens all the way this big.
What
you can see
is that?
Nikon 50 millimeter f1.8
G.
Okay, so it opens as big as this. Okay, so it has different values for every lens, and it has different values for every camera. So that is the aperture, meaning it's pretty basic. The bigger the hole,
The more light comes in.
pangit. the more things comes in. The bigger the hole, the bigger the opening.
The more light comes in.
The more light comes in. So
More
smaller number, more light. So this is f1.8, and I even have an f1.4 at home, which means it has a bigger hole in it. Why is that so funny? Sorry, Chloe. So the usual question here is, Kuya Mon, if the bigger the hole, the more light that comes in, why not use bigger apertures all the time or larger openings all the time? Why not use it at f1.8 all the time so that you can use faster shutter speed because more light comes in, right? So see how the triangle works now? Okay. Well, the reason is aside from the light, the aperture also controls how deep your depth of field goes. Okay? Meaning at f1.8, for example, this camera, this is just an example,
Lens.
Okay? Ayaw nga. Sorry. For example, this lens, this can go open at f1.8. So it's this big. So that means it's more light. But the thing is, at f1.8, this is just an example. This is not exact. This is not accurate. The depth of field is only this big. So this is just the example, okay? So meaning,
There's more blur.
yeah, meaning only the things inside this depth of field are in focus, okay? So this is how we get that bokeh shot, those blurred, creamy background shots, okay? And at smaller opening, more things are in focus because the depth of field
Is larger. Or
okay?
has more reach.
Let me just show it to you. Okay, so let me show what happens when we adjust our aperture. Okay, so for this one, I won't be adjusting the ISO. I won't be adjusting the shutter speed, just the aperture. Right now, we're at f4. Okay, so I just got used to starting at f4 at my shoot. So basically, ready in 3, 2, 1. Yeah. There. As you can see at f4, we can still make out the background. The background is still pretty clear at f4. Okay, now watch as I go to f1.8. So again, the smaller the number, the larger the opening. So let me show it to you. Ready? In 3, 2, 1. There, it's pretty noticeable. Although, you would notice that more light is coming in now. And as you would notice, our background is more blurred. So that's not because of the light, okay? I'll be adjusting our shutter speed again. Just to compensate. Okay? Ready? In 3, 2, 1. There. You would notice that our background is more blurred now. It's more bokeh. You'll probably hear that a lot when you're starting photography. Bokeh, bokeh. What is bokeh? Bokeh literally means blurred in Japanese. So it's usually to describe the background. Blurred background, bokeh background, okay? So you can see side by side f1.8 versus f4. You see the difference in the background? Okay, but then f1.8 at first, if we just adjust the aperture, again, we made the hole larger, meaning it lets in more light. We're talking about light here, okay? Relax. Okay, so now watch as I go from f4, okay, to f8. Ready? In 3, 2, 1. There. And since we didn't adjust our shutter speed to compensate, it's a lot darker. But as you can notice immediately, our background is a lot sharper. So that's where I would adjust my shutter speed. Okay? So you see how it works now. Wait, one more. Ready? In 3, 2, 1. There. See, if you would notice, Big Roy, number 13, at the back, is now sharper in the photo. Yeah, that is Big Roy right there. And a big shout out to Big Roy thank you for sponsoring this place. Christian, Dave, hi. So, basically, you're seeing how aperture and shutter speed works hand in hand now. But Kuya Mon, you said it's a triangle. Where's the third one? Where's the ISO thing that you've been talking about? Okay, we'll go straight to it. The ISO is pretty simple. Okay? What is the ISO, Brother X?
ISO, I don't know what it stands for. The lower the ISO, so there's less light, but there's less noise. The higher the ISO, there's more light, but there's more noise.
Okay, so basically, to sum it up, the ISO controls the sensitivity of our camera to light of our device. Even your phone, if you see ISO in your phones, that's your phone's sensitivity to light. And as Brother X said, the usual question here is, so Kuya Mon, why not use high ISO all the time to let in more light? Well, yeah, that is an option. But then again, as Brother X said, the higher the ISO, the more noise you get, depending on your devices or your camera's capability. Okay? Some cameras, ISO 2000 is no longer usable compared to some other better cameras out there. Okay? So it depends. The amount of noise depends on your devices or your camera's capabilities. But for me, personally, the general rule for me is to use the lowest ISO possible. Okay, possible. Let me stress that out because sometimes there's just moments in your shots that you can't really use low ISOs. So that's a general rule for me. Use the lowest ISO possible or required for your shots. Okay, so let me show it to you. I'll be sticking to my aperture and my shutter speed right now. I won't be moving it around, but I'll be adjusting the ISO. Okay, so Chloe, smile through your mask. Okay, ready? So we are now at ISO 1600. Okay, so we get that photo. So we'll be adjusting to ISO 3200. Okay, you see that photo? And we'll be adjusting at ISO 6400. Yeah, you see the photo is getting lighter and lighter? Okay, and now we'll be adjusting at ISO 12800. Nikon! Okay. Oh, no more Chloe in this photo. Ah, I can still see you.
How about high one?
Yeah. Wala pa, hindi pa high one to, men. 20,000 ISO. And if you get a photographer and they give you this kind of photo, don't pay him. He doesn't know what he's doing. ISO 32,000. And everything's turning white now. ISO 51,200. Wala na kwenta. Puti na lang. Puti na. Okay, now let's see. If you would notice, yes, it allows more light or it's more sensitive to light, but it also becomes noisy. So let me show the noise to you, okay, if we're going to be correcting the exposure in each photo. So just for demonstration purposes, or just to show you the noise, I'll be showing to you a properly exposed ISO 1600 versus an ISO 52,000 something. Okay. Yeah. So here we are at ISO 1600 properly exposed. There. Chloe looking as pretty, hanep. Okay. And then we'll go to a stupid ISO. Okay, 51,200, ladies and gentlemen, 51,200. So our shutter speed right now is 3,200 of a second. Okay, ready? And see, do you notice those grains in the photo, those discolorations, especially on the black part of your clothes? Those are what we call noise. Okay? So the higher your ISO, the more visible those noise become, depending on the capability of your cameras. Okay? Those three settings work hand in hand, but let me give you a tip. Hindi, sa ibang episode na lang.
No. Para mas maraming views for the views.
Oh, for the views. For the views. That's it! Tinapos! Tinapos!
For the views yung ginagawa kasi namin. So yung ibang tutorial or tips, sa ibang episode na lang.
So now I hope you guys enjoy using your cameras in manual mode because you know, using manual mode gives you more control on your cameras and on your devices, okay? It gives you the power to... I have the power! It gives you the power to create those shots that you've been dreaming about. Oh, hanep! Ayan, hanep. And I would like to thank everyone that keeps supporting us on our premieres, our uploads. Everyone has been sending us nice and kind messages out there. Thank you so much. Everyone who's been giving us prayers. Yes, I would like to thank a big special shout out to Candelaria Coffee. Thank you so much. I'll be making a video of your coffee soon. And a big shout out to Big Royce as well and its very handsome owner, Christian Dave Rivera. Ayan, we'll be seeing you soon on our upcoming vlogs. And we'll be making more vlogs about this, tutorials on how to pick your settings or how I pick my settings when shooting portraits and whatnot, and among other things. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. These are just remakes. We have this episode's in Tagalog. If you would check on our previous, our first videos, we already did this, but now we're just remaking it because I learned how to speak English.
So, Photographers is going international on
Yes.
YouTube.
We are international assholes. Bye!
Photographers, 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 photographers.